designated for that. You can also do it online. And again, if you're going, well, I'm not really ready, that's okay. This season of giving is going to extend all the way through until January 1st, okay? And so just keep that in mind. I want to tell you just a quick story that Jason shared with me this morning, right before we started. He has participated in this giving campaign so far, did that last week, and you guys heard a little bit of his story a couple weeks ago. This is not a wealthy man, but he participated, and this week he was contemplating buying a chair, and he was kind of looking at it. He was going to order it online, and he told me that he just said, I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. Going to, for whatever reason, just felt restrained in that. And what you said, about a half hour later?
About a half hour later.
Someone comes to his door and says, hey, I've got a chair, the kind of which he was about to order, and said, here you go. And so just reminder that God provides. And, you never know how God's going to come through on that. Just when you say, man, I've got a need. How's this going to happen? So God is very good. Take a look at your GPS. You know that we're going to Detroit today. That's exciting. But I want to just make sure you know our times for the Christmas services. The candlelight service is December 18th. It's also on the sign outside. You might have seen that. And then keep in mind that our Christmas Day gathering is 8 a.m. here, okay? And last week everyone took a collective, gasp, but that's okay. If I know a lot of people are with family that day. We're just hoping to kind of get that service in the morning early, and then you have the rest of the day to do your family things. But, don't feel bad. Don't come to me, Pastor Chris, I'm not going to make it. Don't hurt me, Pastor. I'm not going to do anything like that. If you can't make it, you can't make it. You can come in your jammies. We'll do jammies. We'll clear the chairs. We'll sit on blankets, whatever. It's okay. And I just want to encourage you, if you've noticed, I know we're asking a lot of you at this Christmas season. We've asked to give stuff to Detroit. We've asked to, this giving campaign. But if you look at the food pantry on your way out today, you'll notice that it's mostly cans. Can we maybe go home and maybe make a special trip or look in the pantry and see if we can bring some things in that are not cylindrical in shape, okay? And see if we can bring some boxes.
It's mostly kids snacks.
Yeah, snacky stuff.
Colleen's like kids snacks, kids food. We have a lot of people utilizing the pantry that have kids that do their own cooking. And so maybe they can't or won't eat green beans in a can, or they have a hard time with a can. Something that's easy for a child to prepare for themselves, and kids' kind of snacks would be fabulous.
Sounds good. All right, well, I'm going to let the kids head out right now. Kids Quest, downstairs. And we who remain are going to be looking into God's Word, but before we do that, let's have a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for the love that you sent to us in human form. You clothed yourself in flesh. You dwelt among us. You are Emmanuel. And God, we thank you for revealing yourself to us in this way, because without you taking on flesh, we would not know you the way that we do. There would be so many things that are a mystery, and yet there are many mysteries. But God, we know you in a way that so many before us, who went before us, did not have this privilege. God, thank you for showing us your compassion, your grace. Thank you for intervening in human history. God, I pray that as we enjoy the things that surround the season, the special movies, the special cookies, the decorations, all the things that our world has tacked on to this celebration, God, help us not to lose sight of you, to not lose sight of who you are and what you've done and what this is all about. God, I pray that we would even be able to imagine a time in which all of that it just goes away, all the extras, and it really just becomes about you alone. God, I want to just thank you and praise you for this giving campaign that we're in, that you have blessed as you have to this point, that we are already past halfway to the goal, and I just pray that you continue to encourage our giving, but that you'd also provide. This is a difficult time for a lot of people. Everyone's looking to buy those gifts and to do things that they want to do to be generous. And sometimes the bank account's just not sufficient. God, would you just provide in a supernatural way, meet the needs that exist? God, I want to thank you, too, for the little things that you are hearing our prayers on. Just Jason's testimony, a great example. We thank you for that, for providing for him. God, we ask that as we just look into your word this morning, you would just reveal truths to us that we may not have seen before, or remind us of things that we may have forgotten, that we might leave here encouraged and seeking, not necessarily a miracle as we're going to read about, but leave here with expectation that you hear and will answer our prayers. God, we just, again, thank you for being in our midst this morning, for being here with us as we worship. Work in us today. In Jesus' name we ask it. Amen. I feel like, is this on? It doesn't feel like it's not coming through. Something's going on here. All right, we're just going to, the light's on, but nobody's home. Yeah. Thank you for finishing that. Normally I strongly dislike someone finishing my sentences, but that was perfect. That actually happens at my house. Sometimes I'm trying to explain something to the kids, and I'll start a sentence, and one of them will finish, and I'll go, no. I'll start again, and then one of them will jump in and finish. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. And I've kind of gotten upset. Like, just let me finish. Well, Christmas is a time of miracles.
Yes.
It really is. Not the kind on 34th Street, okay? We're talking about prophesied events. We're talking about spirit-conceived babies. We're talking about angelic appearances, star signs in the sky. These are miraculous happenings, miracle after miracle, things that defy our senses, that appear to defy science. Do miracles happen today? I think yes. I think yes, most certainly, to some degree. But they don't happen every day. If they happened every day, they would not be miraculous, right? They'd be normal, everyday occurrences. So they can't be that common and still be miracles. They're out of the ordinary. Sometimes I think, and this is going to sound funny, but I think we look at the Bible and give it maybe more credit for miracles than we give to our time today. And maybe it's because of how compacted they are. They're in one book. We go, look at all these miracles, and man, that kind of thing only happens in the Bible. You know, if you go into the Old Testament, you read about fire falling from heaven and about axe heads floating and just all kinds of things going on, and we go, wow, that's amazing. But if you go and you look at how many miracles are actually in the Bible, you will realize that they didn't happen every day in the Bible either. Again, that's what makes them miraculous, right? But it seems like a lot because they're in one book, but they're spread out over 2,000 years, all these miracles. And over those 2,000 years, there were 400 in which there were no prophets and no words from God. Okay? Now, I didn't count all the miracles in the Bible. Some of it depends on your exact definition, but after looking at various lists and kind of thinking through the different miracles, I would say there are about 100 miracles recorded for us, with over 30 of them being performed by Jesus alone. Okay? So that's a miracle. If you go like the whole span of the Bible, it's roughly a miracle every 20 years or so. They're not common, okay? It's not like they're just every single day happening. And there were usually decades and sometimes centuries between miracles. When was the last time you witnessed a miracle? Now, before you answer that, I know you're thinking, when did I see a miracle? Let's define it, okay? A lot of times people define a miracle as a violation of nature. A miracle is not a violation of nature. They say, well, it's something that breaks scientific or natural law. But we refer to birth as a miracle all the time, right? The miracle of birth. Well, it's natural, right? It's supposed to happen. Augustine said that miracles are events which run counter to what is known of nature. Okay, that's a different definition. It's not a violation of nature, but it runs counter to what we know about nature. And what he's saying is our knowledge of nature is limited. And so there may be higher laws which we don't know about, of course, that God knows about, that he can operate through. A miracle is a disruption of the normal pattern of things, not a violation. It's just a disruption. It's an intervention by God in human affairs. So when have you seen a miracle?
I got a chair this week.
You got a chair this week. How was that? Do you expect miraculous things to happen in your life? A lot of times we don't. I don't often do that. This was a challenge to me as I prepared. I was thinking, how often do I expect God to move in an amazing and miraculous way? Now, the Christmas story, a lot of people think they go right to Mary. It starts with Mary. It doesn't start with Mary. I mean, really, we could argue the Christmas story starts in Genesis. But the Christmas story, as we tell it and as we read it in the New Testament, starts with an angelic appearance and a miracle. A miracle that had been prayed for, but one that was still unexpected. So I want you to turn to Luke chapter 1. Luke chapter 1. And in Luke chapter 1, very quickly in this chapter, we meet a man named Zechariah. Let's take a look. Verse 5, Luke chapter 1. Of course, you're more than welcome to get out your electronic device or whatever you've got, and I think we've got it on the screen as well. Verse 5, in the days of Herod, king of Judah, there was a priest named Zechariah of the division of Abijah, and he had a wife from the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. And they were both righteous before God, walking blamelessly in all the commandments and statutes of the Lord. But they had no child, because Elizabeth was barren, and both were advanced in years. So we've got Zechariah here. He's married to a woman named Elizabeth, and it says that they were righteous. They were righteous. What that means is they were keepers of the law. Now, the law was given thousands of years ago, and Israel's been through a lot before we get to this point in history. But they were still living by God's law. They believed God's promises. They trusted God's word. Okay? So they were righteous. It also says that they were old and barren. Now, when they say old, okay, it just means they were well past childbearing age. I don't think, sometimes we imagine Zechariah as being, this old, like decrepit man. People really didn't live to be, 95 years old. So we're not talking about someone like that. But, sorry, there's no 95-year-olds in here, right? So I just called you decrepit. All right. It's not like, Elizabeth was, 60 years old and not sure if it was still possible. Okay, there was no way. There was no way. She was not going to have a baby. All right, and Luke makes sure to tell us this because it means a lot more as we keep reading. They were old and she was unable to have children. Verse 8. Now, while he was serving, Zechariah was serving as priest before God, while his division was on duty, according to the custom of the priesthood, he was chosen by lot to enter the temple of the Lord and burn incense. And the whole multitude of the people were praying outside at the hour of incense. So what we find here is that Zechariah is part of a division of priests, and there were divisions. There were 24 of them, 24 groups, okay, of priests. And what they would do is they'd go in and they'd serve in the temple or at the temple 2 times throughout the year, okay? And they would be there for a week at a time. And his division was on duty, and he got chosen out of his division to go in and burn incense on an altar. Okay, it's part of their worship, and I'm not going to go into what it all was about. Okay, you can read about that in the Old Testament. But he was chosen to go in, and it says he was chosen by lot. Now, we don't really do this these days, okay, but basically it was a sort of not a game, but a method of what appeared to be chance, okay, a game of chance, but was really God making a determination as to who would go in and burn the incense. And this was a huge privilege, okay, because out of all these priests, you probably only got a chance to burn incense once in your lifetime. Okay, not just once a year, but once in your lifetime. This was a big deal. And the chances of doing this were very small. And it says the people were outside, okay, this is part of their worship, they're outside, and that incense is being burned, and it's representing the prayers of the people. So this is a big privilege for Zechariah. So he goes in, verse 11. And while he's there appeared to him an angel of the Lord standing on the right side of the altar of incense. And Zechariah was troubled when he saw him, and fear fell upon him. I think troubled is probably an understatement, okay? because this angel just appears. I mean, can you imagine? You're in a holy place. You're the only person in there. You're lighting this incense, and all of a sudden, there's an angel. Okay? We've all been startled, right? Someone we didn't know was in the house or didn't know was in the room suddenly appears, and we have a mini heart event, right? We were discussing this. We did Child of the Promise last weekend, the Livingston County Christian Musicians, and someone commented on how often, because I sang the part of Gabriel, and they commented on how often Gabriel says, "Do not be afraid." Every time he appears, he's like, "Don't be afraid." Now, I think when we talk about Gabriel, the angel, a lot of times we picture the serene, beautiful, flowing robed angel that's on top of the Christmas tree, right? He looks like something, oh, he's just a guy with a robe on. I'm not so sure. I mean, the Bible never really says, here's exactly what Gabriel looked like. I've been reading in Ezekiel lately, and the angels that Ezekiel sees are nothing like the angel on top of your Christmas tree. Okay? The angels in Ezekiel take your breath away. There's wings everywhere, there's faces everywhere, there's eyes everywhere. Pretty crazy stuff. So I don't know exactly what Zechariah was seeing. You just need to read Ezekiel 1 through 6, honey, okay? My daughter's looking at me like, what? You just gotta go read it, okay? But, I mean, vibrant colors, and so I think when this showed up, when the angel Gabriel showed up, it scared him. I was out in the garage this week, and I was working on something Jody was doing in our neighborhood, it's a little Pinterest party, and I'm out there with the saw, and the table saw is going, and it's making this really weird whining sound. And so I'm kind of backing away, like, what is going on? I'm getting a little nervous, like the saw's going to come apart and the blade's going to go flying or something, but it's like, this weird noise. And then the sound changes and I hear, and I'm going, what is happening? And then Gabriel walks through the door going, Dad! And I'm going, oh my goodness. Like, I thought the saw was going to blow up and there's Gabriel, my son, not the angel, but I had a heart event right there. And so, that sudden appearances are not good for the ticker, okay? It's not good. And so Zechariah, boom, there's an angel, and he's afraid. And listen to what the angel says to him, verse 13. He says, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah." Because he's probably on the floor or something. He's on the other side of the room. "Your prayer has been heard, and your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you shall call his name John. And you will have joy and gladness, and many will rejoice at his birth, for he will be great before the Lord. And he must not